there. Now the temperatures tomorrow ranging 8 to 11 degrees, a couple of degrees cooler than it's been for the last few days. The winds, they'll be from the south and just a little slacker than they have been, ranging 15 to 20 miles an hour in most areas. Well, that's it from me for the present. I'll be back with you over on 1 after the main evening news. That's just about 10 minutes past 9. For the moment, bye-bye.
In London, several people are being held by anti-terrorist squad detectives after dawn raids today, following the chance discovery of an IRA bomb factory in Battersea last week. The bomb factory, including 150 pounds of Semtex explosives plus an arms cache, was found after an opportunist thief tried to steal a car nearby and was shot by a gunman in the back seat. The police were not prepared to disclose how many people were arrested in the raids, where they are being held, or at which London addresses they were seized. In the United States, lawyers for the former Marine Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, at the center of the Iran-Contra affair, have subpoenaed President Reagan and President-elect Bush as defense witnesses in his forthcoming trial. The U.S. Department for Justice and counsel for President Reagan are now considering the constitutional and legal issues the subpoenas have raised. The father of one of the victims, who was killed in the bombing of the Pan American jumbo jet, has filed a $50 million lawsuit against the airline. Mr. Nazir Jafar from Detroit is claiming lax security led to the death of his 20-year-old son Khalid on board the Pan American flight which crashed at Lockerbie in Scotland, killing 270 people. Mr. Jafar has denied allegations that his son was responsible for carrying the bomb onto the plane. The RUC Chief Constable, Sir John Herman, was married today amid tight security in a County Down seaside village. Sir John was married to former law lecturer Miss Sylvia Paisley during a quiet family service at Donaghadee. Sir John, who was widowed 2 years ago, is due to retire as RUC Chief Constable early next year. Well, that's the news for the moment. The main news will be on this channel at 9, with Noacht on Network 2 at 5 to 7. A very happy and peaceful New Year to you all.
Reagan and Bush are subpoenaed to give Oliver North's criminal trial. Sir John Herman marries in Donaghadee. And in the closing hours of the Dublin millennium, the citizens seal the life of 1988 into a time capsule. Good evening. In London, several people have been detained following last week's discovery of a bomb factory at a flat in the south of the city. Today's raid was carried out by armed members of the anti-terrorist squad. Here's an ITN report.
Today's arrests follow last week's chance discovery of the IRA bomb factory in a block of flats in South London. It was found after someone trying to break into a car was shot by a man sleeping on the back seat. The man ran off into the block and alerted a colleague, then disappeared and haven't been seen since. Police later found around 150 pounds of Semtex explosives like this in the flat, as well as rifles and machine guns. Scotland Yard aren't saying how many people they've arrested or from what areas of London, but it's understood armed officers took part in today's raids. Those being held are thought to have had contacts with the two men still being hunted by police after the discovery of the South London bomb factory last week. Today, police said they now thought an artist's impression of one man was a picture of Patrick Sheehy, aged 28, from Limerick in Southern Ireland. He and the second man, who used the names Jim Errington and I.P. Flynn, are still thought to be in Britain. It's believed they were responsible for the bomb at Mill Hill Barracks last summer, which killed a soldier, and may have been planning a fresh campaign for the new year.
In the United States, lawyers representing the former Marine Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, the man at the center of the Iran-Contra affair, have subpoenaed President Reagan and President-elect Bush as defense witnesses in his forthcoming trial. The U.S. Department for Justice, as well as Mr. Reagan's counsel, are now considering the constitutional and legal issues the subpoenae have raised. Anna Chisnell reports.
Colonel Oliver North, the former White House aide, has been charged with conspiracy to defraud the US government, theft of government property and other felonies. His trial is set to begin on January the 31st, 11 days after George Bush takes over the presidency from Ronald Reagan. Washington advisers have cast doubts over either Mr. Reagan or Mr. Bush's willingness to appear in court. No sitting president has ever testified in court in a criminal trial, although every president who's been ordered by subpoena to produce relevant evidence has done so. Constitutional experts say Mr. Reagan may find it difficult to fight the subpoena, having left office by the time of the trial. Colonel North's lawyer says the defence has an obligation to subpoena every person with relevant information.
Well, the President himself has indicated he has relevant information.
Throughout the conduct of my entire tenure at the National Security Council, I assumed that the President was aware of what I was doing and had, through my superiors, approved it.
The Iran con scandal was uncovered in 1986. More than $12 million is alleged to have been diverted to the Nicaraguan rebels from the profits of a secret sale of arms to Iran. Next month's trial is unlikely to help George Bush settle smoothly into the presidency.
The father of one of the victims killed in the bomb on board the Pan American jumbo jet has filed a $50 million lawsuit against the airline. Mr. Nazir Jafar from Detroit is claiming security led to the death of his 20-year-old son Khalid on board the Pan American flight which crashed at Lockerbie in Scotland, killing 270 people. Mr. Jafar has denied allegations that his son was responsible for carrying the bomb onto the plane. Crash investigators say it's still too early for any indication as to how the explosives got on board. Mr. Jafar is seeking $15 million in compensatory damages and $35 million in punitive damages in what's believed to be the first lawsuit in connection with the tragedy. In Israel, at least 9 Palestinians have been wounded by troops in fresh clashes in the occupied territories. The clashes broke out in the West Bank following the death in hospital of a Palestinian youth injured by troops in Ramallah. A general strike has paralyzed the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and a curfew has been imposed with fears of further violence on the anniversary of the founding of the Fatah movement. Leaders of the year-old uprising have called for mass demonstrations to mark the anniversary. And meanwhile, the mayor of Bethlehem has called on the PLO leader, Mr. Yasser Arafat, to agree to a one-year United Nations-sponsored truce to allow for peace moves and municipal elections. The RUC Chief Constable, Sir John Herman, was married today in the seaside town of Donaghadee in County Down. It's his second marriage. His first wife died 2 years ago. The new Lady Herman is Miss Sylvia Paisley, a former lecturer in law. The ceremony at the local Presbyterian church was attended by a few close friends and relatives. There was strict security around the church at Shore Street. The bride is from County Tyrone, and the church at Donaghadee was chosen for security reasons. There was more tight security when the couple left for their wedding reception at RUC headquarters at Knock in Belfast. The Minister for the Environment has said he's delighted with the response to the 1988 tenant purchase scheme, under which local authority tenants can apply to buy their own homes. Today was the last day for the receipt of applications. Una O'Hagan.
Dublin County Council's housing section opened specially today to cope with the scores of people arriving to get their application in on time. According to the council, they've received applications to buy almost half their saleable housing stock.
Where I live in Fettercairn, Tala, the houses are lovely houses. And, you know, they're really nice houses. And I think £10,600 to me is a bargain. And me and the wife decided we'd go for this.
Because we think it's the right time to buy. We can't see ourselves ever getting a loan up to buy a house anywhere else. And we like where we are, so we decided, why not now?
And that success has been repeated around the country. Countrywide, 30,000 local authority tenants have applied to buy their own house, compared with an average of 2,000 a year for previous schemes. Dublin Corporation too say they've had a colossal response.
This one has been particularly successful because for the first time we've introduced the sale of flats to our tenants. And this has added this extra dimension. In fact, it's a unique feature of the scheme this year that people can buy their flats. And that has resulted in a tremendous response from the tenants.
Now rugby, and as expected, Ireland had a comparatively easy time overcoming Italy at Lansdowne Road this afternoon. But the Irish performance was far from inspiring and must present the selectors with some headaches when they meet to pick the team to play France in 3 weeks' time. Here's a look at some of the scores from this afternoon's play.
Mannion up to the 22, looks outside, finds Cunham, and this is Crossan going for the corner. Keith Crossan is in. Great try, Keith Crossan. Hearns put in, Mannion takes, Matthews takes, and up to the 22, and he's going for a second eye. Phil Matthews taking advantage of some weak tackling. Hearn, Dean, Brendan Mullen, Danaher in the line. Danaher on the break. McBride side him, here's a chance for Crossan. Will he break away from Brunelli? He does. Keith Crossan gets his second try and he goes behind the post.
And the final score was Ireland 31 points, Italy 15 points. Dublin's Millennium celebrations come to an end tonight with the sealing of a special time capsule by the Lord Mayor, Alderman Ben Briscoe. It's estimated that Millennium celebrations have brought more than £160 million in revenue into the city. Charlie Bird.
On this, the last day of the Millennium celebrations, the Lord Mayor of Dublin had a busy schedule. His first job this morning was to receive a special delivery of the last Millennium milk bottle. Later, Alderman Briscoe began receiving contributions from the general public for the National Lottery time capsule, which will be buried in O'Connell Street.
Will you have a sense of history?
Well, we would hope that in the future that we'll leave some memento of our existence.
And along with a copy of tonight's news bulletin, there will also be other reminders.
And there's another guy called Charlie Mungy, and he's talking about, interestingly enough, smog is a bad problem. Look at this, we got this.
I think we should put that into the time capsule.
Oh, well, that would definitely go in, yes.
Some solid fuel from Bord na Móna for the year 2088.
The year-long Millennium celebrations have brought record numbers of visitors to the city, along with an estimated revenue of over £160 million.
More important even than the financial benefit, which is, I would call the financial benefit a spin-off. It has had the lifting of the spirit of people of Dublin. It has given, as I said, a new sense of civic pride. It has given them a sense of belonging, a sense of the history of their city. We know more about our origins now than we did certainly this time last year.
Crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh.
And while the rest of the country celebrates the new year, a County Galway man will be buried alive, but it's all in aid of charity. Jim Fahey.
It's all part of one of the year's most unusual fundraising drives. Buried in a grave-like bunker since early morning, the former All-Star hopes to raise at least £10,000 for several sporting and job-creating community projects. A handheld video camera, which he took with him into his half-foot-high coffin, has kept him in constant contact with the support team on the surface. Among those to talk to him this afternoon, his wife Rita and their 4 children.
We make some silence for you.
I hope I'm in the box when they come down for me. Tell Rita that.
We hope so, Frank.
Are you anyway nervous at all about being down there?
When the sound started to die down as the clay piled higher, I got a little bit nervous, all right. But then as I got used to the light from the pipe, I was okay again, you know.
All this has been with a view to creating facilities within a rural community where heretofore none have existed. It's also been done with a view to giving funds to set up our own enterprise units, which hopefully will curb the rampant rate of immigration, which is rampant in this community at the moment, and will also set up employment projects and help our young people stay at home in Ireland where they belong, play with the team here in Turloughmore, and live with their families.
And at midnight tonight, there'll be a huge open-air carnival for which Frank's supporters have been practicing all evening.
That's the 9 o'clock news as the Dublin Millennium Year draws to a close. And it falls to me, on behalf of all of us here in the RTE newsroom, to bring you our special greetings for the new year of 1989. Our wish for all of you is that any tragedy or difficulty you faced in the year just past will soon become a distant memory and will be surpassed by a future of warmth and good fortune for you and those you love. From all of us to each of you, Good luck, good fortune, and Happy New Year.